Welcome back to Easing the Reader, a Wheel of Time reread podcast. And we are The Great Hunt. It's
We
almost at
are,
the end.
we are us
We
two.
are close to the end of The Great Hunt, was what I was going to say. There it
Yeah,
is.
we are close to the end. This is where we're up to now. After today's episode, we have two more.
Yeah,
We have two more episodes left after this one.
yeah.
Next time we'll be having Rebecca from Reading the Pattern, and then the time after it'll be Matt Hatch, the innkeeper himself.
Check.
The end of season, Forsaken. Sorry, it's had a strange turn. I turned into Barty Crouch Jr. from Harry Potter. I started going like this for some reason. Don't know why, but I did. So yeah, it's good. I'm full. I was saying to Chris before we came on, I am full of hay fever at the moment. The season has started. I'm really struggling.
You don't, you're not sick and you don't have the virus.
I don't know. I don't. I usually get like um, injections at the start of each year
Yeah.
because my hay fever is that bad. But I couldn't get them last year because the pandemic started and they weren't bringing anyone in with any kind of thing like that. They were like, everywhere is closed and all this kind of stuff. And then this year they've not even bothered to arrange them. So it's just like I've been thrown to the wolves, thrown to the pollen.
Yeah.
It's running riot. It's so this time last year when it started, and obviously the pandemic had started, I was kind of going around places, and this is before we had to wear masks and stuff.
Yeah.
And I was like, it's just all full of hay fever, and people just look at me like, well, why are you outside? And like, it's just hay fever. Like, I'm fine. It's fine. Don't worry about it. However, it's not fine. It's horrible.
I know. I usually say that I wouldn't want to wish like allergies like that, really bad allergies. I wouldn't want to wish them on my worst enemy, really,
Yeah.
because there's no real relief. I mean, I take antihistamines in June and July, but it doesn't help. It doesn't really.
You're supposed to start loading up on them before it
Yeah,
starts. Is the
I
thing.
do.
So that's why, I forgot to do it this year because I just forgot what time of year it was and everything, and I was like, oh no, and it just kind of like this. It was no pollen and then all the pollen.
All the pollen, all the time.
Yeah, so like I usually get the injections early on, but no. The other way of doing it is you can get locally sourced honey that has local pollen that you're allergic to, and kind of build up your immunity that way by just eating honey, which is something that like Nanive may have. That's maybe her way of doing it.
Probably.
They do like
I
honey
mean, do you have locally sourced honey?
Yeah. They do, yeah. It's famous. Is famous for honey. It's famous for lots of things, but honey is one of them as well. There's lots of locally sourced honey from around this way.
And girls, Galway girls.
There is Galway
Famous.
girls.
It's very famous.
There's at least 50% of the population of Galway is that way. What else is there famous in Galway for? Fields of Athenry, which is where I live. I live in Athenry, so there's lots of fields here. I'm not sure which ones are the actual fields from the song, but if it's one of them, I know it because Athenry is very small. And what else is Galway famous for? Drinking.
And fighting,
Or it
probably.
used to be. It used to be. Not so much fighting, really, just drinking. Obviously, nowhere's open anymore, so there's not much drinking going on outside of people's houses. But speaking of which,
There you go.
speaking of which,
Cheers.
I don't know what which is.
Yeah.
Well, that's it.
So, yeah.
That's it. So I'm sorry if I look worse than usual and sound worse than usual, but it's nature's fault, not mine.
Well, today we're going to be talking about 6, I would say, very interesting chapters to me, because they were very, they're in so many different places. in these.
They are in a
chapters.
few different
There's a lot
places.
of movement going on.
There is a lot of it. Before we go into that though, there was a new Twitter account appeared. A
Oh, really?
wild Twitter account appeared. Yeah. Um, Let me see what it's called, and it's I think it's called What Insider. Right? Yes, that is what it's called. What Insider, and I think all the tweets have been deleted since it appeared as well, which is very exciting. I love this kind of shady kind of stuff. Like
Is it? It's Orlando Bloom.
it might well be. It might well be. Yeah, yeah. So either the account has been suspended or the
Or has it?
it's different, right? So it's called What Insider, and it said Twitter of Time Insider for the upcoming Wheel of Time series. Sources are reliable until officially contradicted, which is good. I like that. They created it like literally a few days ago, and this account has his pronouns on it. It says he, him, so I'll refer to him as a him and a he. He said the show, there's a trailer coming out in May for sure, and the first episode is scheduled to come out. I think it was November 2nd. I think it said.
Okay.
Is what they're aiming for.
Can you remember? Because when Game of Thrones came out, was it this kind of hysteria and mystery surrounding Game of Thrones, or is it? I mean, did Game of Thrones or the Song of Ice and Fire actually have that great of a fan base?
I don't know because
before the show came.
It's a hard question to answer because when it was this far out still, because obviously we've been talking about Wheel of Time now for the TV show, the fandom for a few years now, and obviously it's been filming since September 2019. 2019. Forgot what year it was. So so maybe inside the fandom of Ice and Fire, maybe it was still the same. I think if you just went up to a random person on the street now who had like Amazon Prime or something and said, "Tell me about this Wheel of Time show that's coming out," they'll have no idea what you're talking about because they're not really doing anything for outside of the fandom at the minute. It's all geared at the fans, the hardcore fan base and everything. So, maybe they were doing the same for Song of Ice and Fire. Like I was never like deeply into the fandom or anything like that. But obviously, as terms of buzz for the show, as it kind of came closer to that coming out, they ramped up with like trailers and all this kind of stuff for the general people, normal, like the wider audience, which I'm sure is what they'll do the same thing for Wheel of Time. So that's where we're going to start, like May, in time for like all the virtual conventions and stuff that'll be going through the summer, like Dragon Con, Jordan Con, E3, and all this kind of stuff, and what have you else. Like maybe Amazon will do their own kind of thing, like Disney Plus did Disney did before Christmas, and Netflix kind of do, because obviously like Amazon have Wheel of Time and they have Lord of the Rings and they have The Boys coming back and all this kind of stuff. So maybe they'll do that.
They have Invincible now too.
Yeah. So like at the minute, I think it's all the stuff that they're kind of doing. It's funny, like we're recording this on a Tuesday before Wednesday, which is when they generally do drop any kind of news. So if there's any news to drop, it'll be tomorrow. So by the time this comes out, there might be something that came, and we won't be talking about it for another couple of weeks. But so but at the moment, that stuff is targeted towards like that.
I just remember I had a student who was a heavy Martin fan. He loved Martin, and I think when Game of Thrones didn't come out until after he graduated, so I never really knew what he thought of the show.
Right.
But I remember when he was probably, must have been like at least 4 years before the show even started. He knew that it was coming, and I think if you follow Bleeding Cool, for instance, and Geek Week and those sites, then then you know.
Yeah, yeah. Well, that's the way it is. Like, the thing is with Game of Thrones as well. Like the first, it was a different way of doing it back then. So they made a pilot, sold it off the pilot, but the pilot had to be completely reshot because and characters and actors and actresses were replaced because it was bad. Apparently, it was really bad. And like people involved in it said, like they'll never see the light of day because it was so bad. So it was like quite a long process for it from being filmed originally as the pilot. I think like it might have been even 2006, 2007 when I kind of heard about it.
Yeah,
And then the first episode came out about 2010, I think, wasn't it? It was about
yeah,
10
something
years
like
ago
that.
at this stage now, 11 years ago. But obviously, when it came out, I was living in Ireland at the time. So, like, um, you'd see, like, casting agencies posting for extras and all that kind of stuff and everything that was being filmed up north. So it was like, and bits of Vikings were filmed
Yeah.
in Ireland as well. So there's like, and the Tudors. So it was all like, that was, if you look carefully, you'll see the same people in the background in all three of the shows.
Uh, that's cool.
Yeah.
Yeah. Any other news? Are we? Is that
No,
it?
let's go straight into the Great Hunt.
I don't have. What can I show you?
Oh, Dan Simmons.
Terror.
Yeah, I love Dan Simmons. Love a bit of Dan Simmons. Is a great writer.
I think we might have talked about that on the first podcast that we did together. Our
I think
love
so, yeah.
for Dan Simmons' way of using words.
Yeah, we talked about. Cause I was talking about Hyperion.
Yeah.
And that series and everything. But he's a great. He's one of these writers that can do equally as good in any
genre really.
Genre that he does. Like he really understands what makes each genre work, and he brings in his own touch to it. It's not just like a slave to tropes or anything. He brings his own stuff. Like Hyperion is still like very trend-setting and very ahead of its time as well. Still, even 30 odd years after it came out, a little longer than 30 years actually.
Yeah.
So yeah, no, he's great. The Terror is brilliant as well. It's very
Terror is great, and I just finished Drood by him, which is about Charles Dickens. His inspiration for the Drood, the book that he never finished.
Yeah.
That's a really good one. And, I think you wanna. That's like, even if you don't write in Dan Simmons' genre, you want to mimic the way he writes, the way he uses words. Another favorite of mine is T.C. Boyle, the one who wrote The Road to Wellville.
Yeah.
The
Callum's
cornflakes.
Yeah, cornflakes, man. Bathing in milk and cornflakes.
Yes.
What have you?
That's
good. I do that every day. Don't know about you.
That's why your skin is so silky smooth.
That's why I'm actually 64 years old.
So we're going to talk about.
I'm not 64 years old, just in case people think that I am. I'm a little bit younger than that.
I think it's been quite detailed around what ages we are, just by our points of references. I think.
Maybe, but you never know, though, do you? You never know.
You don't look a day over 25.
I don't know about that. I think I turned 15 and looked about 25 and stayed looking like that until I got to 25 and then I started aging again.
Yeah. So we're going to talk about On the Scent, Danger's Words, A Message from the Dark, The Wheel Weaves, Steading Tofu, and Among the Elders.
Yes, we will.
Yes.
We will.
And it's interesting that I want to say that wasn't there a chapter called The Wheel Weaves in Eye of the World as well?
Yeah, Weavings of the Wheel, I think it's called, or something. But he does do very similar ones like that. I think I said to you last time, like there'll be every so often there'll be a chapter called like To, and it'll say like the name of the place where they want to go to. So like To Camlin, To Carahine to wherever. And it's just like we'll just throw this one in. We'll throw it in for the fans of the
Yes,
chapter name.
a little bit. But as I said, this is a very interesting because when I started these chapters, I was just like, okay, so we're going back to they're gonna chase the horn again. It's time to chase the horn. We're started over. The wheel has turned, so it's going back around. But this was definitely different because all of a sudden they're with their friends again, and they kind of have to kind of explain what's going on. And before, it felt like before you even got a chance, they got a chance to like settle in. It's just like we have to go to this party because I'm
Party. We've got to go party. The interesting thing about that is though, is because obviously we're probably going to talk about we can talk about all these and the kind of we can go back and forth on this because it's even though there is like a few different locations,
Mhm.
it's all kind of the same storyline in this one. There's different POVs in it, but most of them are all to do with this actual chunk of this chapter, this specific storyline, except for one, which is Pad and Thane's one, which we can kind of talk about in isolation. But the rest of it, then it's just like the crew is back together, and it's like, they're all back on the hunt again, and more of that James Bond stuff we were talking about last time, where they're infiltrating the dinner party and
because we were talking about it's very gaslight. I mean we made references to both Scott Lynch, Lives of Lockamora. We even talked about Dishonored.
yeah,
That kind of feel.
yeah. Well, yeah, obviously, like for people just listening, we're not saying that Robert Jordan ripped those off. Maybe they were influenced by Robert Jordan.
That's exactly.
We're aware that this came out in 1990.
Even a little bit, and I think that'd be interesting to get her on. Holly Tinsley.
Oh, yeah,
Has a little,
she writes
we,
Gaslights kind of stuff, doesn't
yeah,
she? Yeah,
we Men of Ash and Shadow has a little bit of the Robert Jordan. This part of it, we should say.
yeah. I mean, this kind of stuff does crop up quite a lot in the rest of the series because there's a lot more. This is kind of the first taste of like the high society. So we've seen like we've seen Rand bump into royalty before. We've seen him in Camlin, which was very much like a gold fish out of water kind of thing. We've seen him in the Borderlands, but that was very much more like a feudal kind of system, and it was very much like him finding his place. Now he's in this kind of very high society, very political sphere, and it's the first time that we're kind of really seeing it. But we're also seeing it as in a place where people are kind of treating Rand as their equal, which is the first time we've seen that. And by people treating them that way, I mean like the High Lords and stuff are all like, this person is one of us, and that's the way they kind of treat him, which is interesting to see. And like it's something that in the first chapter that we come to in this one, where they all kind of bump into each other again, and there it is with them. The other, like Mat and Perrin and Ingtar, are all kind of noticing this change in Rand, where he's a lot more like comfortable with taking charge and ordering, hearing about, and but in a nice way though. He does it in a nice. I think he's he's quite good.
There's such interesting because they're forced to play along too. I think Perrin kind of takes a back seat in this part of the book.
He does, yeah. Perrin's just along for the ride at this stage, like he is pretty much for the whole of this book. He's just kind of along for the ride, really. It's one of the things when we talk about adapting this book and the third one into a TV show is that Perrin doesn't really have a lot to do.
No.
In this book, he has a lot to do in the next one. But then the other thing is as well, like, so that's one of the tricky kind of things. You don't want one of your main characters that's just hanging around basically doing and obviously Moraine has not been in it for
she's been
18 chapters I think by now, like I think we've been gone for. So there's a few things, but it's very much like Rand centric again, but like the like Verin just makes everything just more intriguing because you're just not sure
it's interesting because she takes Moraine's role a lot
Yeah,
here. It's like there has to be an Aes Sedai
yeah. But she's all
double.
about giving information, whereas
Yeah,
Maria wasn't. It. But you're still not sure like where her loyalties are and
no,
what her game is because um, even though she's kind of free with stuff, it's like the bit where they go to they all reconvene in a new inn because Rand's is on fire, so they all go
which
somewhere.
they don't seem to care so much
They
about.
don't care. They don't care about it. And yeah, they all reconvene in this inn, and Verin just kind of has like a very private conversation with Rand in front of everyone else about the statue.
Yeah, the
Basically.
statue that's big enough,
And
and that it's one of two.
it's quite yeah. So it's one or two. It's a bit of an kind of an info dump, but it's quite intriguing at the same time.
Yeah, it's not like the info dump that we've seen before when they've been on barges and some salty sea captain just kind of like brings them the like entire like history of the world or the region in one sweep. Nobody asked him.
Yeah, I do like a salty sea captain that does that though. Whenever I'm at sea,
Yeah, is that
I
what you said
I appreciate one of them just telling me about everything that I never knew about before.
about the history of the world?
And I'll sit there and just like, yeah, thanks, thanks for that.
But I mean, what was I going to say? No, I mean it's this whole thing about the inn burning down, and because probably both you and I, when we've talked to publishers and they've critiqued and given feedback on stuff that we've written, they can kind of like say, "Is this what's going on here? Why aren't they reacting
Yeah,
to this?"
yeah.
Apparently, that didn't happen to Robert Jordan in this case.
No, different tastes, I suppose, different times. Because like I know right now, like yeah, if that was something that like I had written and sent it into like my publisher, to be like, well, you have like a character that could do something about that. You have an Aes Sedai that could stop the fire, or at least help, or at least heal some of the people. Like if there's anyone, but they all just ride off. Just like, have you got rooms already? Yeah, all right, let's go.
But I think also, well, I think that is kind of, I mean, yes, it's all about tastes, obviously, but I think it's also kind of like in what tradition you're steeped in. Because to me, I mean, it's funny, but it's also okay because people kind of would react. I mean, some people would react that way. Some people wouldn't
Yeah,
care.
some people would like it's that Lord of the Rings thing again, isn't it? Like especially in the Fellowship of the Ring, they never kind of stopped to think about the destruction behind them. They just kind of kept going forwards, and this is still like the Great Hunt is a lot less influenced by Lord of the Rings than Wheel of Time was, like overtly, but it still has that. It still has those trappings, and it still has that covert influence because obviously it was Robert Jordan's fantasy touchstone. It was just, it was the thing that he like went through. So it still has that thing where it's like they're moving from place to place, and it's like when something happens, they deal with it and they move on from it, and that's it. The inn's on fire. They're okay. They're going to the next place.
And all I was saying is that sometimes that has to be okay too, because some people wouldn't react because of whatever. They're too busy being happy to see each other, or Rand is too frustrated because the horn and the dagger is gone.
Ingtar is frustrated.
Ingtar, but he's pissed all the
Yeah,
time.
he's punching his fist and his palm of his hand, and he's stamping his feet, and he's smouldering into the distance. Matt isn't too bothered about it, surprisingly. This is the thing you wanted to talk about, Matt, a little bit in this bit, but this is the only bit where like you kind of expect a big strop, for want of a better word, from Matt. And he's surprisingly fine. He's like, well, it was lost when I lost Moya. It's still lost. It's fine.
A little que sera.
It's like, that's a. It's like one of those people that it's like You know, those people that come onto like game shows, and it's
Yeah,
like, "Are you sure you want to gamble? I came with nothing. I'm leaving with nothing. It's
exactly.
fine." That's like it's a good outlook to have, isn't it? It's like,
I think anybody who plays Pointless must have that outlook because so few people win that show.
no, watch Pointless.
Haven't you watched Pointless? It's
Never watched it.
hilarious.
Never
I
watched it.
love Pointless.
Watched it. The last game show I ever kind of really watched was Taskmaster. It's not really even a game show.
No,
It's funny.
it's coming. I saw that it was coming back on some channel I have.
Yeah,
It's like, oh, Taskmaster. I just like never seen this thing. Anyway, so they
good.
ride off in the distance, and then they have to make. Obviously, they have to make a plan. Where is the horn and where is the knife? But they have an idea. Who might have it?
Well, they send Horan out, don't they?
Yeah,
Huron out, and
he can sniff a little
he
bit.
goes sniffing away.
He said,
And
the trail might be cold. He said because
it might be cold.
violence dissipates.
Violence because he said it wasn't Trollocs, it was dark friends, and he can smell them, but only for a day or so. So we switched POV to Perrin's POV on this one, and he's kind of admiring Rand quite a lot in this bit, isn't he? Like it's like
There's something fishy about Perrin.
he's kind of like Rand's looking good in that coat.
Yeah, he spends a lot of time on the gun in his dress.
He's wearing that coat well, better than he did before. He's looking very dignified. He's a dignified young man, and he's what else? He keeps on calling him Shadow Killer all the time. And it's
Yeah,
like, well, we've got it. We understand. We understand it was Rand that the wolves were talking about. All right, we know.
I think,
Stop it.
and I think that's for all the development of the characters. There's still like naivete that they have in the beginning of the first book is still always there because it's always
That's good
they
though.
always compare to what it was in their
Yeah, yeah,
hometown. It's like, well, what would the elders say about that?
yeah. That's good though. It's good that this not something that is just drops altogether because it's
No, no, no,
obviously like it's
absolutely.
been less than a year as Rand points out later on in this sequence. But yeah, it's quite taken with Rand. He kind of likes his the cut of his jib in this section, doesn't he? He's not flinching from looking at the Aes Sedai. He's treating her like an equal. He's
It's a little bit. I think it's a little bit on the nose, maybe at that
yeah,
Jordan like that his the change. I think as readers, we've already understood that there is a change
yeah.
in Rand, and this is kind of like, was this really necessary? Him drooling over Rand.
Maybe it's a really nice coat. We don't
It could
know.
be.
It's as nice as you want to imagine it to be. Like,
Mhm.
but yeah, he's
I'm thinking Gerard Way in the Black Parade.
we'll see. We'll see shortly, won't we? But yeah, I mean, there's some good information in this chapter. Like the plan they come up
Yeah,
with is good. Like all the kind of pieces that have been like in these last little bits fall into place. Like the invitations that they've been getting. I quite like how when Rand gives Perrin like the two information invitations, one from the king, one from Moraine's cousin, family member. She just like rips up the king's one like Rand was doing as well. It's nice. It's a real nice touch. But like that kind of falls into place where like Corinne comes back and they say it's in Bath and there's his house
yeah.
basically. Uh, we'll come up with a plan to get into there. And Ingtar's like, we need to act now. I must have it. What's funny about this is though, they just skip that entire day because they say the invitation is for like
Yeah.
the next night. And they just skip the entire day, which is
I
never
know.
like Robert Jordan. Like normally something would happen in any kind
Yeah.
of time, but they must just take the day off.
Took a nap.
Yeah,
Maybe Rand went to that stable master again and asked him about Celine.
could done. Perrin could have tried Rand's coat on.
Probably. He
Like
said we should all get coats like this.
we should all try on your coat and see who looks best in it.
Yes, I
No
bet
one will
it's
look better
me.
than you. No one will look better than you, Rand. But let's just try anyway. So they come up with this, and then obviously, like Verin just like tells the information about the giant sangreal, whereas the one that can be used by a man, one that can be used by a woman.
Yeah.
She hints that, like, Lagaine would have been tore apart trying to use it, but the Dragon Reborn probably would be okay as long as he was using a woman to channel. And he says, like, she even says, which woman may well be strong enough to use it as well. just giving him a lot of like little kind of hints saying, listen, mate, you might want to use this in the future. Just saying.
It's like one of those points in Diablo that you have to come back to. Like you have to jump several. You have to go in the chapters, and then you have to go back all the way to like the first chapter in order to use it when you're strong enough. And this is funny because they make up this plan, and they have to be. Is it like Mat and Perrin have to be Rand's servants, manservants, and Mat has to pretend to have a limp.
For a little bit of it, yeah. It's very caperish again, isn't it? Like they just leave Perrin at home as well, which is like just kind of speaks to like what role he has in this book. It's like, Perrin, you just stay here and read a book.
Do you think Jordan just had too many people to keep an eye on?
Yeah, I think so. I think he was just kind of looking at like it's the Huron thing is what is the problem in this bit because they even say, like Matt even says in this bit, he's like, oh, Perrin is like Huron as well. He's a sniffer as well, right? So, like, it kind of negates what Perrin can do because you've got someone there that can kind of do the same thing for this plot than what Perrin could do, right? And it was fine when Huron was taken out of the equation and he went off with Rand because Perrin could assume that kind of role with the other group and lead them to where, and he even does in the chapter where they meet up. They're like, oh, Perrin was able to like sniff you out basically. But now, like Huron is back, it's kind of like relegated Perrin again to just being along for the ride. So I don't know if he was. I wonder if he ever kind of regretted it and was like, maybe I should have just given Huron's role to Perrin.
Yeah, probably
all the way from the start. Like,
and I think wasn't that what John was saying that he would get rid of Huron?
There's another character that you'll meet at some point in the future that he was saying he could combine him with, which he could. It's not one of the people you've met already. It's someone else. And like, I think it's a really good point. I think that could easily be done as well. Whether it will be or not, I don't know. But they have talked about that they will be merging some characters together. So that one would be a prime one because it's basically they don't have the same ability or anything, but they kind of perform the same kind of function. So it's it'd be easy enough to kind of put them together. But anyway, off they go.
Off they go to a party, to a garden party. No, it's not a garden party, but it's a party.
It's like a garden party inside.
Yeah, it's like the Great Cucumber Massacre.
There's a lot of hijinks going on in this, isn't there?
It did actually. It took me out of it a little bit. It wasn't my favorite chapter. There's a lot of like, seeing is how this isn't representative of what the book otherwise is. It took me out of it a little bit because I got kind of like a little bit confused. There's a lot of highborn people, and it's interesting because we were talking about people who are high society. It seems like people who are in high society apparently live in the 16th or 17th century, as opposed to everybody else living in the Middle Ages.
Well, it's
the same in Terry Pratchett's This World.
Yeah.
People who are high society are usually in that sphere. I mean.
Yeah, I mean, it is supposed to be that anyway. I mean, this is like kind of pre-industrial revolution era, but the high society people are a lot kind of closer to that than say people that are in the Two Rivers or something, which would get very kind of like serfs, but there's no like master that controls them or anything. They're just like kind of like a bunch of forgotten serfs basically. But like, yeah, there is that because obviously there's the fireworks and there's
Yeah.
the music and there's the like fashion and all that kind of stuff. But yeah, so did you catch that Barthenez is related to Marine?
No, I didn't catch that. That was so surprised me when you said that. I was way too focused on Tom
Oh
with
yeah,
the show.
Tom's back again.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, same surname, isn't it? Damodred.
Mm.
Yeah,
I
so
didn't think of that.
I think from the I'd have to check, but from the top of my head, I think the cousins. But Moraine is very, very high ranking
Mm.
in the, she wasn't a nice to die. Even maybe she still is. She's very high ranking in the kind of Kerheim society.
Yeah.
Anyway, so
Is she from? Are they from there? I mean,
yeah,
is
yeah,
she
yeah. They're from there. Yeah, yeah,
Perrin?
yeah. Well, she's. I'm pretty certain it's the cousins. Like, so
Mm.
she's it's the same family. So like Barthenez is like the second most powerful family in Kerheim after the king.
Mm.
There, but well, not for long because the king isn't long for this world. We never met him. Well, not the king, sorry. Barthenez even isn't long for this world. He's,
No, actually, he disappears even in these chapters that we're reading.
he does, yeah, just off screen, just overnight. It's just like, yeah, he's dead.
Very, very Greek tragedy
Mm.
of him.
He comes up to Rand anyway, doesn't he? He's like trying to feign
Yeah.
disinterest in him, but Rand can see his eyes are saying different. His lips say one thing, his
Very,
eyes.
very Perrin
Yeah.
situation. Yeah, no, everybody seems very smitten and very taken by Rand here.
Well, it goes
Aren't
even
there
a little
even a
bit
couple
deeper.
of noble ladies here?
Yes. Yeah. Yeah, they're all just throwing themselves at him, and they're all like,
He's
so,
like Tom Jones.
yeah, they're all like, my husband's away. And it's like, and Rand's just like, what the hell has happened? And he sees Tom. So Perrin and Mat go off to the servants' quarters to find out what they can find out. Perrin just goes off doing her own thing. Loyal goes off doing his own thing. Rand becomes a magnet for all the high-born women whose husbands are all suspiciously away.
You think there was a war going on?
There's a war over Rand. They love him.
Yeah.
They love Rand. So yeah, they all kind of do that, and then Rand is like, Tom, come rescue me. And Tom's like, so you've got a nice dive. You want my help, do you? And he's like, no. He's like, you want my help? No, I don't. You want my help? Come on, just let me help you. And it's like, no, I don't need your help. You are right. You want my help, don't you? Come on. For old time's sake, come on. He's desperate to get in and help him.
Yeah.
Isn't it?
The one thing I didn't understand here, the one thing I must have missed, because I kind of read these chapters in two sittings. I read the first part intensely first, and then I kind of jumped into the second part later in the week. Last week, is like, where do they go from? They're in this highboard place. They're at this party, and all of a sudden they're heading somewhere else. They're already away.
Rand, Huron, and Mat, is it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well,
so
when they go to the steading, that whole.
Oh, well, you're missing a big chunk out here first, though.
No, yeah, well, I know, but I mean, obviously they go through the waypoint and they get chased by Match and Chin.
They try to go through the waypoint.
Yeah.
So there's a waypoint in the area that's been like that. The man has been built on top of it.
Mm. So that's what I missed. It's like all of a sudden they were going through the waypoint, or they wanted to go through the waypoint.
Yeah. So Huron and Mat kind of like, so Huron comes back and says, Mat's fallen over. You have to come and sort him out. And it's like, fool of a servant and what have you. And they've found the trail, and it goes into like an outhouse in the garden that's kind of been they say it's underneath it, so there's like a little kind of a drop or something. So they go and check it out, and it's a Waygate. So this is where the
Okay,
way.
so that's where I missed. I must have missed
Yeah,
something.
yeah. So it's on the grounds, like it's just underneath, like this like kind of building. There's like it's been built over the top of it. So they try and go in, and Match Shin is waiting for them, which is impossible. And it's going to come out, which is also impossible. But Rand kind of holds it in using the one power, and so while Loyal
Yep.
can put up the leaf and close the gate, but obviously no one knows what Rand has done because he won't admit it. But he's saying that he could feel like when he was channeling, he could feel like Match and Shin kind of calling to him even more and tempting him.
And here they do talk a little bit of what they think it is, right? Or is it
Yeah.
there's like a but they're not sure.
Yeah, so they basically all leave, don't they? And then like Barthenez is back again. There's a really funny bit before like Rand goes off where Barthenez like pulls Rand aside again and it's kind of like, so I didn't think you Andor men played Dice de Mer as well as you do. It's like it's really funny because like everything that Rand says, just like the guy is just thinking there's like how many different meanings is he talking? It's just on so many different levels. And so he's just like chatting to, and he's like, "You've given me plenty to think of." It's like,
There's so I mean, yeah. I mean, it says something. I think there's a commentary here to be had about like the decadence of high society, and I'm thinking that's what Jordan was trying to
yeah,
get is that these people are so wrapped up in their games that they no longer know what the truth is.
yeah.
And I
That's
mean,
right. That's right. That's right.
and in the end, isn't that what like the political game is? I mean, and I think
Yeah.
because like when because obviously Jordan must have been working with this in the late '80s,
Mhm.
mid to late '80s was when he was like mapping this.
Reagan era.
Yeah, and you think in Reagan era, and you think of it was towards the end. My boss and I were talking about this just last week. Is like how you know I guess how in what poor health Reagan was at the end of his second term,
Mhm.
and that basically the politicians, the government were had to hide it because he was in such bad shape.
Yeah.
And I'm thinking that Jordan must have seen that and seen the political game
Mhm.
behind it. And even what happened to Clinton afterwards, there was, I mean, Bush and, well, Clinton would have been later, but
Yeah,
George,
it was a bit later because Bush next, wasn't it? But like
yeah,
even before that, like he was obviously Jordan's a Vietnam vet, so he would have seen like Nixon and
yeah,
what, which is who like Emperor Palpatine was originally based on in the
I
first
can
parts
imagine.
of Star Wars. Like, and that's the same thing. Like in the first kind of initial when he was working on Star Wars before he kind of went a different direction with Palpatine, he was going to be like this basically a puppet that was being controlled by the Senate, you know. And he was very, and in his notes he described him as like a Nixon-like character. So there is that kind of thing when people are writing this kind of stuff, like they do kind of pull from what's around them.
Yeah, and I think that we'll be seeing a lot of Trump like
Trump and
texts,
Johnson and Angela Merkel and all sorts of these kind of people.
Trudeau.
Trudeau, yeah, yeah,
But
really,
yeah, no, but I like that. I like that part. I like that social commentary,
yeah.
digging into it a little deeper.
Yeah, and then they have another conversation. So when they come out of the Waygate and like Perrin's like we're leaving because like we need to go and see if Perrin's finished his book. Um, so Barthenez grabs him again and he's like, I didn't realize you were in so deep, and then basically just says to him like I'm a dark friend and
Yeah,
confirms that he was at this meeting at the start of the book because he says like he's got the description of Rand and all this sort of stuff. Like, was he at the meeting or someone told him? Do you think? Because he says that he's got a message. Like
I
he
think he was. I think he was told. I don't think that he was
you
there.
don't think he was at the meeting.
No.
So he gets told he's got a message from Padden Fane, and he basically like says like Fane like strong armed him into like using his grounds and all that kind of stuff, and told him that, like, wait for him at home and head, otherwise he's
Yeah.
going to kill everyone that he loves and all this kind of stuff. So we know, where they're going, where they need to go. They go back to the inn, and Perrin's just reading the Adventures of Jane Fastrider, just having a good time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think that it's interesting because we get to see a development of Padan Fain from being, if you were to characterize him as like a Batman villain, Padan Fain, the sense that I got from him being more of a bit player in the first book, at the end of the first book, obviously, because he just kind of pops his head up, and then being in the prison and everything like that. I find him to be more of like, I don't know, one of the lesser villains, like the ventriloquist or something like that. One that is kind of like not super dangerous, but he's definitely kind of evolving, and we see that in the chapter, which must be the wheel weaves, right?
Yeah, it's the one. It's the one after when they get back to the inn, because they get back to the inn and they kind of say, like, what should we do next, basically.
Yeah.
And they're like, we'll go to the Stead Inn and we'll try and use another way gate. And Rand's like, listen, it's not going to work. And
No.
Perrin's like, you're wrong. Match and Shin doesn't work like that. We don't know what it is. We just know it appeared during the men going mad. But we know that Rand is correct, because we know that obviously Match and Shin did something with Padan Fain as well, because he was in the way gates after them in the first book.
Mm-hmm.
So
and there are other clues later, right? That going through the way gates isn't always a good idea.
Not always a good idea, no, not always. So they kind of like, yeah, we need to go this, and then it switches to Tom coming home from his night. He goes to the inn that Rand was staying in, but they've already left, because he really wanted to help them. He's like, I need to help them.
And then he talks about, like, maybe it's time for Dina, right?
Dina. Yeah.
To go out on her own, sing a little bit. Maybe he'll let her sing next time.
She sung for the last time, Chris.
No singing in her future.
No singing. Nothing. She's dead.
Yeah.
Dead on a bed.
Dead on a bed.
There's a man in a wardrobe.
Yes. Two men, a fat man and a muscular man.
Yeah.
Big
wardrobe.
Yeah, and there must have been a big wardrobe. And Tom gets to show off his knifing skills.
He does, and he holds one of them for he holds one of them for a very long time and questions him for quite some time, really.
And I like this. Because it gave a little bit of something that I sometimes find is lacking. And we talked about it before when we talked about battles. We talked about it on an earlier show. Intensity. This was intense.
Yeah.
There's a description. He holds the man's hair, and he's got like the scars, and he's like pointing the blade at in his eye, and
he is,
very intense. But he's very angry. He's upset.
He's very angry. Yeah, he's very angry, and rightly so, because he's like, I told you I was out of this game of houses, and like they're all like, we want to know what you know about Rand, and he's like,
yes, please tell us some information, and we can sell it. We can sell it together.
Yeah, it's like, man, why does no one believe that he's a shepherd? Like, literally no one believes that he's a shepherd. Not even, like, Perrin and Rand and Mat at this point believed that he's a shepherd. Before that as well, they tell him about meeting the Aiel, and they're saying that, like, they're on about some guy who comes to the dawn, and we reckon it's you, because, like, you're obviously a male. And then Mat's like, listen, if he doesn't want to believe that he's one, fine, but he clearly is.
Yeah.
So Tom kills the guy, and then it turns out that it's that the King's men that sent him.
They're not dark friends.
They're not dark friends. It's just the King's men, and the dark friend is dead. Someone tore him apart and stuck his head. Was interesting.
It was torn apart, and the only way we could tell that it was him was because his head was on a spike.
Yeah.
So that's gruesome, buddy.
Yeah, so someone's annoyed at him.
Yeah.
A little bit. It's pissed somebody off.
Yeah. Maybe it's the man sometimes known as boars.
Sometimes known as boars. Don't know. You have to wait and see, won't you? You
I
have
have
to
to wait and
wait
see.
and
I
see.
want to see when I want to see. I want to see what he's going to do. It's kind of like in The Simpsons, in the episode where Homer borrows money from the mob
Yeah,
for
the
Marge to
little
run
guy.
her business.
Yeah, yeah,
And there's this Japanese guy who's just like, that guy hasn't done anything yet. And
yeah,
it's going to be awesome when
yeah,
he does.
yeah, yeah. Are you on about the guys sometimes occasionally known as boars?
Yes, I think that when he finally does something, it's going to be awesome.
Okay.
I hope.
Okay.
It'll be disappointing.
So yes, we have a chapter half from the point of view of Tom, and he goes off
Yeah.
to go like, I'm going to go and kill someone, and then we have the other half from Padden Thane, who is
Yeah.
trying to worm his way in with the Sean Chan.
Yeah, and I was saying here he turns into more of, say, like maybe not a full-on Joker like villain, but he's definitely more of like maybe the Riddler. Here, a little bit of
Yeah,
a
I kind of get
smarter.
like a Two-Face kind of thing from what I was
Yeah,
looking at. You have that kind of, and what's good about him here as well is like you get his like in a train of thought where he's trying to he's trying to influence
so yeah, Turok.
Turok, and he's trying different kind of techniques, and he sees, well, this one isn't working, so I'll change my tack here, and this isn't working, so I'll change here. Then he's like stopping himself from laughing when he's like, I'm going to send you to the Empress, and he's like, oh, I could do great things in this place. I could do wonderful things. Please
I
send
think
me.
yeah, it is. That part is hilarious because it's like evil people trying to out evil each other in a
Mm.
way.
But
Because
at the
Turok
same time,
obviously isn't good.
is he not though? Like it's just
I
a
don't know.
different. It's just a different like. I mean, all the people living in Found seem happy.
Yeah, well, it's true.
Like they goes he goes to great lengths to point out, even Panthane does, and like when you see it again a little bit later on, if you as long as you're someone who can't channel,
Mm.
they can and you say the oath, which is await, serve, and obey. Like they just kind of like do whatever you want. Like, it's fine. We don't care. It's
Mm.
just that's how we need to do. Um, so it's just a different way of life, and they all have Texan accents. Remember that whenever they talk.
Yeah, yeah. I did forget to think about that when I was listening to it because they obviously don't speak with Texan accents in the audiobook.
Maybe they should have done.
Yeah, they
You
should.
don't you don't believe me about that, do you? Do you believe me about it?
I don't know. I don't know why you would lie about it.
It's a funny
So
thing. It's a funny thing to lie about.
it would be of all things.
And it's one of those things where it's like it's so bizarre that it's like, well, it must be true.
Yeah,
Because why would someone make that up? But
yeah. Well,
maybe you should go and look it up yourself and see if I'm telling the
I
truth.
will. I think anyway. I think that this part was it was a good. It was that was a good chapter. I really liked that chapter. I liked that there was some action. That there was some sadness. Obviously, Tom's girlfriend, the one he might have actually married,
What do
would
you?
have married. I think so. I think he was going to settle
I
down.
think he was
It's
just
kind
having.
of like an art. It's like an Arnold Schwarzenegger movie or a Jean Claude Van Damme when he's about to settle down, and then somebody comes and
I think
murders
he
him
was.
entire
I think
family.
he was just having a midlife crisis. I think that's all it was.
Is he the Punisher now?
Have to wait and see.
No. And then I do like the pot on Fane. I do like when we get a little bit of insight into how he's thinking. And I said he's less comical in this one, although there are some funny parts in it. I mean, I think that the whole back and forth with him and Turok as he's trying to like reveal the case.
Yeah,
He's like, and then he's like, "Damn, I should have opened it myself. I should have let Turok open it."
yeah, yeah. And he spins in this story about like about his family, like
Yeah,
home the old ways.
yeah, that he
And
inherited the box.
yeah, and all this kind of stuff. And he's like, And Turok's like, you know a lot more than anyone else does, but I could almost believe you, but I just don't. Like, but
Yeah.
you're quite amusing because everything else here is boring. Like, and it's just, and I like the bit as well where like the guy is like his, I think it's they call him his voice. I think is his term. He like hits like Padam Fane, and Padam Fane's like decided the way he's going to die. Like that's it. But what I like about the Sean Chan as well is like there's a lot of and people that saw me on the Dusty Wheel hearing me say what I like about the Sean Chan may be surprised. I do like the Sean Chan. I think they're great, but I just would cut them from this adaptation for the second book and just move them because if you're going to combine the second and third books together, because there's just too much going on. But anyway, because also as well the other thing is we don't really spend any time with them after this for a while. But anyway. I lost my train of thought. But yeah, there's some things that I like about them is that there's some similarities to the White Cloaks as well. So there's like you can see the similarities from things that they've kind of the origin point from them is obviously being in this continent, and then they left. They were part of Arthur Hargwin's armies, and one of his sons took them to conquer wherever they went to, and then they lost. But you can see that like the society is kind of similar because they both, the White Cloaks and the Sean Chan, have like they're called listeners in the Sean Chan, but they also have seekers for truth as well. And obviously, the White Cloaks have a similar thing as well, where they have like their own people, the questioners.
Yeah.
And so it has that kind of similarity there, and they're both like the White Cloaks. Hate channeling more than anyone else, but then the Sean Chan also hate channeling more than anyone else. Like, unless they have them leashed, and then it's all right. So it's like you can see that like there's a similarities between the two different societies, even though they've been on a different continent from each other, and people forgot about the Sean Chan.
I saw hedonism bot in front of me when I was thinking about Turok, when I was kind of picturing him.
Do you like him?
I do like him.
You like him?
I do like a little bit of hedonism, actually.
He is, yeah. It's a funny thing with I can't wait to see them on the screen. Like when they're on off the blood, they all have like the lacquered nails, and they have like the kind of crazy hairdo and the little gowns and stuff that are kind of see through. It's a sexy place.
It's a very sexy place. I think I want to go visit there.
It's America, so go do it.
Yeah, I could go there.
You were from there originally.
I think it's very New Orleans, even if they have a Texas accent.
Yeah, maybe.
But then we're going back to the party, and basically chapters 35 and 36, studying Sofu and among the elders, is basically just one long chapter. They go to a setting where there are other Ogier.
Yeah, everyone's feeling good.
Yeah.
Everyone's looking good in their coats.
And Mat doesn't have to limp anymore.
Doesn't have to limp anymore.
But he's still I find he's kind of whiny and bitchy here in this part.
You see, like we talked about this before, even before we came on, and like Mat is my favourite Wheel of Time character, but I despise him in The Great Hunt. Like, and I think you're supposed to an extent, but I also think that maybe not to the extent that many people do in this book. And the character, like, no massive spoilers, but like obviously he's one of the main characters, so he's sticking around for a while. The next book, he kind of has like a character reboot where he's like, Robert Jordan finally decides like how much of a rogue he actually wants him to be and how likable that he actually wants him to be as well.
But I mean, you said that you don't. I mean, and you've said several times that you don't like him in this book, and that made me always believe that he does something, that he does like a deed that makes him unlikable. But so far, all he's done has been whining. Is that why you don't like him, or is he actually doing something else? Is he going to do something else?
Well, no, I won't give you any spoilers or anything, but I don't like how whiny he is. I think it's taken a little bit too far. I understand why. Like he's got his, he needs this dagger, and he's like kind of wasting away and all this. But it's the fact that he's holding such a grudge against Rand the entire time from something that happened at the start of the book. And Perrin's already moved past it and been mature enough to kind of go, okay, right, well, this is the case why he was doing it. Like they both know what Rand is. They both know all this kind of stuff, and it's like you can see like Rand. The only reason that Rand is there is to get the dagger from Mat. He doesn't care about the horn or anything like that. He doesn't. He wants to get the dagger and then disappear. He said that he's made that perfectly clear. So like. For all Rand could do, Rand could just disappear, and like that'd be it. He'd be out of it. But he's staying because he's friends with Mat, and he wants to get the dagger from Mat. And then Mat just can't let go.
No. And I think that's what I find annoying is that he just won't let go.
Yeah,
he just like won't let it be. But so they get to the steading. There's a bunch of ogres there, female ogres there. We get a little insight into. Oh crap! What's his name? Loyal's background, and that he's he really is in want of a wife, an ogre of a certain age.
Like many of the male characters in this book, women just want him to be married to someone.
Yeah.
It's a running theme from many of them.
Yeah, and they even talk about that because there's a little hint. I mean, Rand thinks about his relation,
he does.
His relationships, and then the fact that it was uncomfortable that Tam didn't have a wife.
Yeah.
for people in the city.
Because that's when we're first introduced to Tam. Like those characters, Tam and Rand, when they're coming into the Two Rivers, there are like women just flock to him and they're like, you found a wife yet, Tam? And it's like, Robert Jordan's really into it. He's like, we've got like, people are like, Lan needs to get married, Rand needs to get married, Tom needs to get married, Loyal needs to get married. It's like, all right, just calm down with the marriage, mate. Some people don't want to get married. It's fine. Don't worry about it.
So this is a little bit of a breather. They get there. They talk about Mat and Chin. They meet the elders. Mat is a little bit compassionate in this part, where he actually says, "I don't mind Loyal. He can come with."
They're all feeling nice because they're in the steading. They're all like, "This is all right. It's chill." Except for Loyal, he is not happy he's in the steading.
No, because he's worried that they're going to send him back, or he didn't ask for permission to leave his steading. Yeah. Also, there's a little bit of a kerfuffle. Weapons.
Yeah.
Drawn.
Yeah.
Some women.
You loved it. You loved it.
I liked it.
you like a bit of a kerfuffle.
I do like a little bit of kerfuffle. No, but yeah, because they meet another party that is in the steading, and for some reason, which I didn't quite understand, they don't really care for one another.
Who's
they
that?
Get into because they get into it with each other, right?
Who does?
The two parties, the Ingtar and his friends. I would call it Ingtar's party, not Rand's.
Yeah.
And these people who are in the steading.
And who are the people in the steading?
There's women.
And what women are they?
Aren't they Aiel?
Yes. Why would you not say? It's like there's some women. It's like, be specific.
Aiel women are there.
Yeah, the Aiel are everywhere at the moment, aren't they? They're spreading all across the land. They're all one of the places.
And they almost get into a fight, which is not okay in the steading.
No, it's not okay in the steading. It's not okay anywhere, Chris. Pacifism is the way forwards. Don't, and you better believe that.
Okay, Gandhi.
It's true.
I think if Gandhi had a big ginger beard, the two of you would have looked quite similar.
It's getting more white each time we come on to do this.
by the end of this whole series, when we read all of the books,
I think oh yeah, it'll be about I think probably 4 or 5 years from now. So like probably
it looked like Father Christmas.
it'll probably be even longer because we're either going to have to like do longer episodes or more episodes. So we're talking about the TV show at the same time.
Yeah,
So like yeah, so I don't know what we're going to do by then. But
maybe
anyway,
more often.
maybe more often, 3 times a week. Um,
Well, yeah. Anyway, not. I mean, apart from that, not much happens in this chapter. Apart from they talk about the waypoint, and they need to get through the stones. They need to find some stones.
Yeah, so
Travel to.
Rand is proved correct. They open the way gate and
Yeah.
Mat Chin is waiting for them again. And Perrin's like, maybe you were right. And by the way, I know how to use the portal stones. It's like, why the fuck didn't you say in the first place?
Like, how could you know? The Brown Aja always know.
Yeah, because it's like Rand told her about the portal stones, how he used them. He told them the story. He just said that Celine was the one that did it. So like it's why did Perrin not just be like, let's just find the portal stones and know how to use them instead of this infinitely more dangerous way of going through the ways? Because even if matching Shin isn't waiting for you, there's a good chance that it might find you. Like so, that's my thoughts on it. But anyway,
Yeah.
they're off to go and use a portal stone, and that is the end
Yeah.
of this section.
And I think it's funny how we always seem to end it on, and then they're going to, like they're ready. So there's a lot of things happen here. There's a lot of or they end up in a lot of different places. We see a lot of things, a lot of viewpoints.
Yes, it's quite well paced. I think I would say it's it's brisk. They don't hang around in one location for more than really a chapter.
No, it's very much, and I think it's like paced like, say, one of the other. I would say if I don't know if I have the Weiss and Hickman books here, but like for instance, the Crystal Shard, for instance, by R.A. Salvatore, which is a lot thinner.
Yeah. Like I think the thing that helps as well is that there's like it changes POV.
Yeah.
There's 4 different POVs in this 6 chapters at various points. Like so, you're seeing a lot of different people, their thoughts and feelings on what's going on. You're seeing more of the world.
You're seeing a lot more character development too, in a different way. I mean, especially like you get more insight into Tom, and you get into more insight into Padam Fane. I mean, I like that. I like that part.
Yeah, and I think as well what this section does well is that it kind of sets up the kind of end game where it's like, well, we know Padam Fane is in farm, we know the Sean Channer in farm, we know the White Cloaks are heading that way, Rand is heading that way. So it's all like kind of, we know that we're getting to that point. The only people that are kind of left out, and it's people we didn't talk about in this section, is what's going on at the White Tower. But the focus is firmly on them for the next few chapters. Well, not the chapter immediately after is the Portal Stones, but then after that we get a look at what's going on at the White Tower for a little while. So the end is very much, it's like, whereas like in the Eye of the World, the ending is kind of just sprang on you a little bit, and then it's just this mad dash where they're in Camlin and it's like 150 pages left or something, and it's like, we've got to go and get to the Eye of the World quick, and it's like they just barrel off to the Eye of the World and that's it. This one, it's been building and building and building, and it's all these kind of different characters are all converging into the same place, so it's less of a kind of surprise, I suppose. It's more structured.
Yeah, it's definitely better structured, better paced. One question before we end the show, though: how do you envision the ogre looking? I mean, what do you think they're going to end up looking like in the show? Because I can see they talk a lot about he writes a lot about Loyal's ears moving,
Twitching.
and I would see that like.
Yeah.
It's not going to be so sexy, I don't think.
not so sexy. No, like I think they're doing it like humans. Like it's not going to be CGI completely. I don't think.
No.
I think it's humans with CGI and the prosthetics and everything like that. It's an
Because you
interesting.
don't, because in the comic book, it basically looks like a man pig hybrid,
Yeah.
and that's not very. I wouldn't want to maybe go that way in the show.
No.
I'm thinking about. I've assumed that you've seen Legend with
Yeah.
Tom Cruise.
I have. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah,
I saw you talking about that on the old Facebook the other day as well. What were you talking about? I think you were.
yeah.
Was yeah.
Love a bit of Legend, actually. Me and my buddy from Chicago yesterday. That's why we didn't tape it yesterday, because I was with him. We were talking about all those old movies, and that we came to the conclusion, or I said, has Ridley Scott actually ever made a bad movie? And we came to the conclusion that yes, Robin Hood.
He's made loads of bad movies.
That is not true.
What about that bloody Exodus film that he did? Whitewashed the movie.
I will not admit to that being a movie that he made.
He's done loads of bad films, but he's done some cracking films too.
I think he's done a lot more. He's done better. His production, the high quality movies are more than.
Yeah, I'd say so. And like even all of his films look great as well. Like
Yeah,
even Robin Hood
yeah,
looks great, but it's
yeah.
just not
But
great.
that's what I was going to say. In that movie, there's like a pig-like creature that lives in, or who works in the kitchen, that
Yeah,
Tom Cruise kicks the shit out
that's yeah.
of. And we don't want Loyal to look like that.
No, it's a tricky one. I think it's something that takes a long time to get right because they want to obviously they don't just want him to look like a big dude with pointy ears like a dog
No.
either. Um, so it's yeah, I don't know because like they obviously they want to. It needs to look almost Trolloc like,
Mm,
where like some people do mistake him for a Trolloc. It's generally it's not people that have ever seen a Trolloc that do it, but it needs to kind of look Trolloc enough, and he needs to be of a similar size to a Trolloc because obviously there's that bit in Karine where he basically
yeah.
wrestles a Trolloc, goes hand to hand with one, and beats them. Um, yeah, so you don't want him to look silly. Is
No.
the thing, and like it's you probably at first like when like obviously you probably want him to look at when you first see him you want to be kind of like frightened of it a little bit because you want to be like what the hell is this thing like I was that's like Rand's first reaction when it's many people's first reaction when he sees him and until he starts talking then you see that kind of like gentle giant kind of side of it but no it's a tricky one I kind of think make it as much human like as possible with like just oversized features like the bigger ears, bigger kind of nose.
Kind of like an Andre the Giant type look. Just make him look like
Yeah,
Andre the Giant.
kind of, yeah, kind of. Maybe even like kind of Hagrid like in the Harry Potter films, but like with more distinguishing kind of things to set him apart. Like, um, yeah, it's tricky. It's not an easy thing to kind of do, like because it's not something that is just like in a couple of scenes either. It's literally
No.
any scene that Rand is in, he's there, like, and Rand is the main character. So it's not something. It's something that they have to get right. Um, but yeah, I'd be very interested in seeing what he looks like. It's probably one of the things that's like kind of it'll be one of those things that if they get wrong, it'll look ridiculous, and if they
Yeah.
get it right, there's probably only a few ways to get it right as well, which is the way to do it.
Yeah. Well, anyway, that's the end of these chapters, and we're going to have a special guest next time.
Next two times at least.
Next two times, yes. We're going to be a trio next time.
You sound like Christopher Walken then. You're bringing that Christopher Walken about a trio.
A trio.
Oh, a trio! Wow. He's back again.
Can you tell me, you have some, to tell us about Quarrencon, talking about cons before.
Quarrencon.
Quarrencon.
Tell me about Quarrencon.
No,
Are you going to tell me? I'm on the edge of Quarrencon. So, Quarrencon is this. Well, we need to get this video and podcast up before Quarrencon starts. So, you've really put me on the spot here because it starts on Thursday and today is Tuesday. So, I have a day to get this out.
Yeah, I can do it.
Thank you. So yeah, Quarrencon, it's a fantasy convention that's going on from the 8th of April to the 12th. It's got a variety of workshops, panels, stores, readings, all based around fantasy novels. So any types of fantasy, children's, YA, epic, high, low, urban, grimdark, everything. So there's a few authors that you may know that are involved, like Evan Winters, Anna Spark Smith, Cavan Scott is one of the panels as well. Lots of indie ones like Area River Publishing, who we both work with. Our own publishing house, Breaking Rules Europe, is going to be involved as well. I'm running a workshop on world building, which is going to be on Friday the 9th at 3:30 p.m. GMT on YouTube. Just come on and have a little chat and a natter and give you some tips on world building. And I'm doing a panel on Sunday the 11th at 7 p.m. GMT about grimdark fantasy, the difference between grimdark, dark and horror fantasy, with a few authors involved in that. And I'll also be doing a reading from my upcoming fantasy book series, In Solitude Shadow. So I'll be doing that at 10 p.m. on Sunday. But there's loads of other stuff going on. Loads of really good panels. If you are a fan of fantasy and you just want to check it out, see some authors talking about their work and hints and tips, then that's great. If you're a writer or someone that wants to write, there's going to be a load of workshops and stuff about crafting short stories, crafting character voices, crafting action scenes, and all stuff like that. So yeah, that's on this weekend. This is Quarrencon. Quarrencon, so QUARANCON 2020.com. And obviously it's 2021 now, but last year as well, and that's the web domain. So that has all the information, all the panels and all the workshops will be running on their YouTube page. And hopefully it's going to be a good fun. There's a store on there as well, which may have some books by there's an author in there. Don't know which one.
I don't know.
Well, yeah, that's that. Are you going to be joining any of the workshops or panels, Chris?
I'll be checking in on Friday, definitely. Probably Thursday as well. I have a couple of interviews I'm doing. I'm going to be interviewed by Under the Pen tomorrow. Podcast, and then I'm actually doing a couple of interviews. Got busy podcasting future here. We're getting we'll see if we get a little bleed over the sponsorship here too.
Sure.
So, sponsored by a marketing company, and so we're working with them to put out to market authors and stuff like that.
Very good. Exciting times. And then I'm sure anyway, by the time that we come back in 2 weeks, there'll have been some Wheel of Time news, probably tomorrow, and we'll look horribly outdated. But that's all your fault.
That is all my fault. What? Because we didn't do? Should we have waited till tomorrow?
No, I'm just blaming it on you in general.
Yeah. That is. Well, until the next turning of the wheel.
That's my line.
We'll say it then.
You've already done it. I'm not saying it again. Bye.